I'm unmuted now. All right, now we're live.
Hi guys, welcome to Tech Week.
Hey y'all.
Nope, just
Nope.
We had to social distance. Sorry guys. All right, hey everybody, welcome to day 2 of Tech Week. This is Tech Week's JAWsome presentation.
I'm gonna move very far. Now,
Ready? And we hope you guys have enjoyed everything that you've learned so far. And we can't wait to present for you guys today.
Oh, much better.
All right, you ready to?
Sorry, I'm having technical difficulties on the Tech Week start with our StreamYard video.
All right, Jess, you ready to share screen?
Yes, I'm going to share screen so we can go on with our presentation. Can you see it?
Now I'm going to remove.
Oops. All right, can you see it now?
All right. Stop sharing. You got to remove yourself from the broadcast. All right, guys and gals. So we're going to go ahead and start with our Tech Week JAWsome. I'm Jordan Gentry, and my co-host is Jessica Edwards. So I'm going to go ahead and start with our attendance. So this is your academic attendance survey, or your employees attendance survey, I guess I should say. So if you guys go ahead, you can either go to the link tinyurl.com, or you can scan the QR code with your phone, and you are able to go ahead and get on here and take your attendance survey. So I'll give you guys a few minutes to go ahead and do that. So there's going to be a little bit of wait time. I'll let you get that done. And then we'll move on from there. Nope. Okay. Sorry guys, we're having technical difficulties. I can go? All right. So let's go ahead. Let me go back to this. Okay. So
So you're seeing, she's sharing your talk, and then she will go forward.
okay.
Yep. Where are you? Okay. Oh, Lord. Jessica. No. Hold up. Present. Okay, talk. We can do it.
All right. All right, guys. So I'll give you a little bit about us. My counterpart is Jessica Edwards. She is an MED plus 27. Jessica, would you like to come talk about yourself?
Sorry, I'm trying to keep up with Jordan over here. We're having a few technical difficulties with our computers trying to work it out, but I think we're getting it. So thanks for hanging in there with us.
You are now on the stream over here. So
come over here and talk. Although your name is Jordan Guidry and her name is Jessica. So I don't think it matters. Just remember that they're swapped.
Yes. I'm Jordan Guidry. I am a certified reading specialist. I'm a 7th grade ELA teacher at Live Oak Junior High, and I'm also a mother of 2, a little personal information, and a lover of Dr. Pepper reading science.
Oh, look, I'm there. I'm here.
So let's go ahead and dive into our presentation for today. So we're going to start with debunking some education myths. So the first thing is that education is broken. We hear this quite often as educators. And we know that education is not broken. And quite frankly, all of us, either at the district level or in the classroom level, we know that we all are going to try and work as a united front to promote student success and to put as much emphasis on learning as we possibly can. They also say the old way of teaching no longer works. We know that in the 21st century, we have to integrate technology, but it's not necessarily that the old way of teaching doesn't work. We just have to figure out how to blend those two things together to best reach our students. Then kids are technology natives. We know that our kids have technology at their fingertips, unlike what we did as children. However, just because they constantly are using technology doesn't mean that they know everything about every aspect that we're going to teach them. They might be able to send a discrete text message in their pocket during class, but that doesn't mean they understand how to upload a Word document. And the last thing is technology must drive all decisions. We know that this is not the case because the smartest person in the room is and always will be you, the educator. So let's talk about how we can change things. So instead of saying education is broken, we know that blended learning can and should elevate what we do best, not diminish. We know that instead of the old way of teaching no longer works, instructional practices and pedagogy and academic outcomes must drive the instruction that we give our students and our technology that we choose to use. Kids are technology natives. Instead, we should say blending learning is going to help us master and know how to use technology and move towards specific goals. And the last thing is that technology must drive all decisions. So you know you are still the smartest and most needed person in that classroom at all points in time. So what exactly is blended learning? It's learning that comes through a mix of face-to-face instructional time and digital tools and resources. So this is where we use our old teaching practices, or what we know as our pedagogy, and blend technology into our lessons. So here we know that technology does not take the place of pedagogy. You always start with your outcome, what you want your kids to achieve. You're going to use instructional strategies that you know have a high effect size or high value. You're going to slow down and not move with haste in terms of blended learning. If you move with haste, you're going to have disastrous results. And then technology isn't pedagogy. Just like the typewriter and the calculator did not fix all the problems supposedly in education, they did not take over. We still had to teach math or teach writing. All right, so let's talk about how we do this. So you always start with a goal, then you go to your strategy, and then your tool. So your goal is the result that you want to achieve. Your strategy is going to be the plan for how you will achieve this goal. And the tools are going to be what you will use and apply to achieve the goal associated with the strategy. So you must know the difference in these three things to be successful in terms of blended learning. In education, we know that the desired academic outcomes are improving instruction and student learning, boosting student growth for success. And then there can be more than one tool per strategy. And if you want to know more about this, they have Instructional Strategies by John Hack. It's going to be a book that you can check out. So let's look at our framework for strategic blended learning. Here you have to first identify the desired academic outcome, then select a goal-aligned instructional strategy that works, choose digital tools, plan-based instruction, and then self-assess your plans and progress with the framework. So the first thing is identify your desired academic outcome. For this, you have to ask yourself, what skills do I want to cultivate with my students, and what priority standards will be addressed in this lesson? For selecting a goal, you have to ask yourself the following questions. What high effect size instructional strategy or strategies will I leverage to meet academic outcomes in step 1? What will my students be doing in this lesson? And what will I be doing in this lesson? For step 3, you have choose digital tools. In this one, tools are going to help you evaluate your strategy. They're not going to be the most effective, but they're going to add to what you already do. So you're going to ask yourself, what digital tool or tools can I use to elevate the chosen high effect size strategy? How will these tools make me more efficient and effective? How will the tools evaluate or increase the rigor or relevance of student learning? And then will these tools allow me to double down on instructional strategies where I am most skillful, or will they be a distraction for me or my students? For step 4, we're going to have plan-based instruction. So your questions you would ask yourself for this section. How will I plan this lesson strategically with rigorous and relevant academic outcome in mind? And then what will I be doing and what will the students be doing throughout the class? Then you have your self-assess your plans and progress with a framework. Here you're going to know, are learning tasks moving students out of low rigor and relevance and towards a high rigor relevance? Remember, rigor questions are going to be questions or learning tasks that students use on higher levels of cognition of Bloom's taxonomy. Like, are students evaluating or synthesizing, analyzing, or creating new content? For relevance, you're going to say, will students be able to apply newly acquired knowledge across disciplines and or to real-world predictable and unpredictable situations? So will your students grasp that what they are learning is relevant to circumstances beyond the class content at hand? So let's look at our rigor and relevance framework. So this is going to be your framework, or what's going to help you determine if what you're doing is rigorous and relevant. So it's a framework built upon 2 continuums, Bloom's taxonomy and the application model. It considers rigor of instruction and real-world connections. So it says these 2 continuums make up 4 quadrants. A, which is going to be your low rigor and low relevance. And then you're going to have B, which is pushed on the relevance, but there is still, B is pushing on your relevance, but there is still going to be a little rigor. And then you're going to have C. Sorry, guys. We're making sure that we're on the correct place. So C is going to go up here with your rigor. You're going to have more rigor. And then D is what your absolute goal is. So an example of how this would work would be like A. Students is going to be low rigor, low relevance. Students can access a document in your virtual classroom and read for comprehension, and then type a short response, name the file, and submit it to the teacher. For B, you're going to have the students work in teams on a document that they can share as a collaborative notes to maybe summarize a text. From there, teams can peer review and provide feedback to each other. And C, students are going to use some type of storyboard essential element from the text, storyboard essential elements from the text. They will include photos and videos and collected via Google searches, and they will support their assertions and conclusions of the material. And for D, which is going to be adaptation, your highest level of rigor and relevance, you're going to use maybe like a Hangout or Zoom, some type of a live chat where your peers can talk to either peers within your class, different classrooms, maybe people at a different school, and then you're going to debate your assertions of the text. Summaries, prompts, and essential questions are created to students, and you can give them to kids prior to. All right, so let's look at our 4 quadrants a little bit more in depth. Our first quadrant is quadrant A. This is acquisition. So this is your recall part of your lesson. So notice we have all of the different things that would be considered quadrant A, like bullets and listening, all the way to opening and using work docs, using a mouse, things that we expect students to know, but they don't always know. So this is where students are going to gather bits of knowledge and information. They're going to be expected to remember and understand the knowledge that is provided to them. It's simple recall and basic understanding of knowledge. An example would be like if your students were to access a document in your virtual classroom, like we said earlier, name it and submit it for grading. All right, for quadrant B, this is your application. And notice we have everything from advanced searching to web uploading or using things on the web. And so from here, students use prior knowledge to problem solve, design solutions, and complete their work. They're going to use the highest level of application is to apply knowledge to new and unpredictable situations. And then students use acquired knowledge to solve problems, design solutions, and complete work. Students work in teams via Google Docs to create collaborative notes, and they are going to summarize the text. So that would be an example of how they would do this. Then we're going to move on to quadrant C. This is assimilation. Here, this is going to be everything from editing and hyperlinking to validating resources that they use or find. So students are going to extend and refine their acquired knowledge to be able to use the knowledge automatically. They're going to analyze and solve problems to create solutions. And they're going to extend and refine acquired knowledge to automatically and routinely analyze information, solve problems, and create unique solutions to problems. An example of this would be if students are going to create a storyboard using specific elements from the text. They can include photo and video elements, anything like that they can come up from an internet search to help broaden their knowledge. Then we have quadrant D. In quadrant D, we have adaptation. And this one is where students are going to have the competence to think in complex ways and to apply knowledge and skills. So we have everything from animating to reviewing, podcasting. So this is where they're going to be showing you what they know. Students are able to use extensive knowledge and skills to create solutions and take action. They're going to be able to take action and further develop their skills and knowledge. They're able to cope with the perplexing unknowns that are going to hit them when they're looking or creating their response. And they're going to be able to think with complexity and apply knowledge and skills that they use to unpredictable situations. So this is going to be like if you were to use something like Zoom or Google Hangouts, to have a debate with either another class, either a neighboring school in the district, or even possibly a different state. But you're going to have some type of debate where the students have to submit their questions prior to discussion, and then they're going to debate via a virtual platform. Now we're going to look at some different types of methods where you can blend technology into your classroom. So our first one is going to be the interactive video method. For this one, you're going to start again with your academic outcome, and you're going to be strategic. You're not going to use technology that you're unfamiliar with. You're going to watch the length of your video, question with purpose, and remember your methodologies like show and tell and show. So basically, you're going to start with your outcome. What is your goal? What are you wanting your students to learn and achieve from this video? You're going to avoid technology just because you want to use it. Don't use something that you're unfamiliar with, and do not pile on too much technology and overwhelm yourself and your students. And it's always a good advice or just a good practice to always teach your students how to use the technology that you want them to use prior to. So if you're wanting them to create something in Flipgrid, you're going to have to show them how to use Flipgrid prior to doing this method. Then it says, watch the length of your video. So for example, if you take a video, and let's say on author's purpose, and that video is 8 minutes long, and you upload it to Edpuzzle and you put a series of questions in, that video is no longer going to be 8 minutes. So if you choose to use a station rotation model and you use that video, you're going to have to allot for the amount of time, both think time and time to respond, to those questions. So you're going to have to remember that when planning. And then remember your methodologies, show and tell and show. So show and tell is where you show the video and then you have students respond. And tell and show is going to be that students predict first and then watch the video and assess the responses. Tools that work for this would be like Edpuzzle, Videoposit, and Biologs, and Screencast-O-Matic. So any of those would work for this method. Our next one is going to be questioning and Socratic seminar. I know this is something that a lot of us have been using lately. And so we know that what gets scripted gets asked. In other words, sometimes it's hard to create higher order or rigorous questions on the fly. So it's good to have those questions ready and at hand. So when your students are firing back and forth and they're questioning each other, if their questions are at a low rigor, you can interject and give those questions to try and get them to think. Because your goal in a Socratic seminar is to get them to think, not just recall. Then you have to make sure your questions address multiple levels. So you want to try and get at least one question of each levels of blooms out for Socratic seminar. So when you're doing that, you're going to facilitate, you're going to make sure that you have those questions ready again and that the students are asking. And then put your scripted questions into your technology beforehand. And what I mean by this is that not all kids are going to be those children that want to raise their hand, they want to debate. You have your introverted students that are your wallflowers that are not going to put themselves out there, and they might have great things to say. You can always use technology that's going to allow you to either project in real time and have kids debate back and forth that way. So the goal is to remember to get kids not to answer questions, but to think for themselves. So you can use things like questioning tools like Kahoot, Nearpod, Poll Everywhere, Today's Meet, and Socratic, Plickers, Google Forms, any of that. And you can also use something to where they can write on it in real time and collect the notes for the questions that they created. All right, vocabulary programs. So for this one, it's instruction must be formal and structured, comprehension requires context, and there is no comprehension without picturing. So throughout this, remember that you're going to be dedicated instruction relies on deeper thinking about word meaning. So you're going to have to get those kids to think about the word. So one of the things I do in my classroom is I always show them the word first and I ask them, are they familiar with this word? And by what I mean with familiar is, can they define it in their own words and can they use it in a sentence correctly? I then give them the word in the sentence, which is comprehension requires context from the story. So I will give them the sentence from the story and I will give them a few minutes of think time and they will create their own definition for this word. And in doing so, it allows me to call on students randomly or if in the Google Doc to look up and see what they have. And from there, I'm able to look and see who was able to use their context clues to comprehend that word and who still has some misconceptions. Then it says there's no comprehension without picturing. The internet is full of pictures, and it's always a great idea to include pictures with your vocabulary. So by including pictures, explaining why those pictures are associated with that word, or allowing students to find their own pictures or create their own pictures to go with that word, you're helping them create visual cues that will help with retention and the ability to retrieve information. So you can think like the Fryer model on an interactive slide possibly, and submit that out to your students so that they can each complete that individually. So for this, you could think like Google Slides, Padlet, or Poplet. Any of those sites would work. Our next one is going to be direct instruction. For direct instruction, this is the greatest potential is when it's used to teach new knowledge. It's a multifaceted and intentional, and technology makes monitoring student engagement seamless, simple, and information-rich. So for this one, direct instruction packs the most punch when you're introducing something new to students. You're going to make sure it's multifaceted and intentional to make sure it's getting its maximum effect size. It has to be purposeful. It has to be pre-planned. It has to possess achievement of goals, highlight critical points to students, include guided practice, and the opportunity for independent practice. And what matters the most is knowing when to move on to guided practice and when to move on to independent practice. Remember, this goes back to you're always the smartest person in the room. And so you have to know when to move on and when to reteach or revisit a concept. Then students can communicate through direct instruction of technology without breaking the flow, post questions without raising hands, and technology can take the guesswork out of when to move on and who needs clarification, or when to provide students with more information. You could do this with things like Kahoot by having questions, Google Slides, Poll Everywhere, or Today's Meet. Any of those would allow you to have student engagement that is not going to break the flow of instruction. Our next is going to be peer tutoring. For peer tutoring, we have matched peers and tutors intentionally. So if students are just matched randomly, a lot of times they're not going to be able to learn from each other. So students need to be matched in a way that benefits them, or that where they both have benefits in their relationship. We know that for practice, and it's for practice and not the introduction of a new skill. So peer tutoring works best when you're reviewing skills. Then we have train your tutors in advance. For this one, you must train your tutors in advance through teacher modeling. So you're going to model for your students how to tutor your peers or their peers. Then most effective when students are in control. Students need to be able to practice decision-making skills, identifying and meeting the needs of others, and expressing their need for help. Then we have teacher needs to monitor and facilitate. So remember, it goes back to you're still the smartest person in the room, and you have to help maintain focus and help deliver one-on-one instruction. And then tutors do not need to be in the classroom. So students can tutor lower grades. You can help tutor students at other schools. You can even tutor in terms of foreign language. Meet with someone from a different country and have them help you with diction and things like that. So ways to do this are Google Hangouts, FaceTime, Zoom, and Skype. So all of those will be conversations in real time. You can also recap with peers by recording and having them provide information for peer tutoring. So maybe if you're learning a new language, you can have those students say something like maybe recite a poem or something that they've written, and you can have another student who has mastered that language give them feedback via recap, show me, Voxer, or WhatsApp. Any of those would work. All right, so let's go ahead and review a little bit of what we have. So remember, when we talk about blended learning, we always want to identify the desired outcome first. So we're going to start with our desired outcome, your results and your skills. Then you're going to select a goal. This is going to be an aligned strategy that works. This is your how. You're going to choose your digital tool. This is your purpose, your pedagogy, and your strategy. You're going to plan your blended instruction. For planning and blended instruction, remember what gets planned gets done. So this is where you're going to make sure that you have those rigorous questions already set up in advance, or your technology already uploaded and ready to go. Then self-assess your plans and programs, your framework. Let's look at some of our EdTech tools. So we have Weston Kiesnick's top 30 EdTech tools. So these are from the book Bold School, and these are a list of his top 30 tools where he says these are the best ones that he feels for teachers to use in the classroom. And we also have a few that I added to the side, like Flipgrid, Study Blue, GimKit, Seesaw, Screencastify, and Quizlet. But he has G Suite as his number one because he said there's so much involved. You have your Google Drive, your docs, your slides, your sheets, your forms, your classroom, and all your sites. Poll Everywhere, Today's Meet, Prezi, Kahoot, Poplet, Voxer, Socratic, and so much more. We also have some additional resources for you guys. So these are additional YouTube videos or websites that you can go to, like why are so many of our teachers and schools so successful? So this is actually John Hattie giving a TED Talk. We have 23 highlights from Hattie, which is a online document that you guys can look at. The teacher toolbox, Professor John Hattie's table of effect sizes. So this is going to give you all of his different strategies that he feels that teachers use effectively, and how well they work in the classroom. And then Bold School Teachers Evaluate a Culture of And so this one is going to be the author of Bold School, Weston Kiesnick, and his TED Talk and his describing of how teachers impact our blended learning. All right, so a lot of our information today came from Weston Kiesnick in his book, Bold School. I have it here. If you have a public library card, it is currently an audiobook that you can use or borrow for free on Hoopla. So you can borrow that with your public library card. All right, I'm going to put up your employee attendance survey one more time. Remember, you can go to tinyurl.com or you can scan the QR code. And for this one, I'll give you a few minutes. And then for your next one, I'm going to go ahead and show you. Sorry. This is going to be your presenter survey. So you're going to go ahead and copy, go to tinyurl.com, and then you can scan that QR code, and it will take you to your presenter survey. I forgot to change the title. Sorry. All right, and then our last thing is that we're going to have our information. So you can reach us at Jordan Guidry at lpsb.org. You can have our Twitter handle on Instagram, or Jessica Edwards, and we have Jessica Edwards at lpsb.org as well as her Twitter information.